right. Welcome everybody to a webinar on how to design an RSI and anti-bot resistant class. I don't remember the full title we gave it, but the idea here is that the AI world is hurting us, and how do we become a bit more resilient to that? We'll dive into introductions in a second, but a few notes on logistics. Everybody's over in the chat already, which is great. If you haven't found the chat yet, jump on over there. That's where you can put your questions. And we will be monitoring that and taking them and either answering them real time, or maybe other people answer them in the chat. You're also welcome just to throw opinions out there, throw different nuances or ideas. When we are done with this webinar, David will actually have the recording shared out, and he will share a transcript of the chat as well. So if there are resources that you're like, oh, that's useful, but I didn't grab it in time, it will come out in the chat for you. The session's set up for an hour. I don't think we'll use the full hour. It kind of depends on you all and your questions. So we've left a fair amount of time for you to get your questions answered. And I can't stress that enough. Like Jessica and Wendy and I do way better if you all have questions and are engaged. If you're a silent audience not asking anything, we're just going to run through our content and be like, great, I guess we'll go to lunch early or something. So please put a question if you have it, put commentary out there, whatever it is. It helps us know whether you're enthused or disgruntled with the ideas that we're throwing out. And if you have any particular questions, we can get to them. So without further ado, some introductions. So my name's Marcus. I'm one of the owners of Harmonize, and I will be kind of facilitating some of the conversation today. And then Wendy, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then throw it to Jessica and then to David.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Wendy Bass, and I am a distance education coordinator at LA Pierce College. And I also have been teaching child development online for 25 years. So I have seen lots of changes in the online environment.
25 years.
Hey everyone, I'm Jessica Dropond. I teach English, so I feel a lot of the English teacher pain about AI. And I'm the district distance education coordinator for the Los Angeles Community College District. So we have 9 colleges, so I help coordinate all our DE efforts.
I'm David. I'm an account executive here with Harmonize. I'll be in the chat today monitoring any questions, so make sure you ask lots of them, and I'll throw it back over to Marcus.
And David runs a bunch of our webinars as well. So like he shared a math webinar he's run. If you have particular subject areas that you're struggling with, and throw them out, David maybe can grab. He's done so many webinars for us over getting with professors and sharing ideas that he can help out with that perhaps as well. All right, so kind of the flow and the agenda here. The summary of what we're after, kind of the goal here is you can't make anything AI proof. But we also have this huge onus on us as instructors and as educators to comply with what are called the RSI guidelines, which we'll get into and define in a moment. But it's this idea that you need to be interacting with your students. But what happens when your students are bots or AI written content put in by students or anything along those lines? How do we design a course that is somewhat resilient to all of those things? And how do we make it more fun for ourselves as instructors? And how do we make it more easy to accomplish the things that we're trying to accomplish without having to read the same variation of the AI written essay over and over and over again? And so we're going to cover a bunch of those things. And that's why I was asking some of the subject areas you're teaching. And so if you haven't put your subject area out in the chat yet, put it out there, because when we start providing examples of some of the things that can happen in course design, we will talk through some strategies to deal with those, and I will do my best to accommodate those into particular subject areas as well. So, all right, so I'm going to start with some definitions, and then we'll start more of the conversation side of things. For those that aren't familiar with what RSI means, it's a regular and substantive interaction. And it's this idea that in online education, the instructor needs to be present and giving good feedback to the students. Just the core of teaching, right? Nothing terribly onerous. It's just defines this notion that we need to be present in the class as instructors. In particular, it names a couple things that are very, very, very susceptible to AI, which is why we're doing the cross section of these two. One of them is in order to be present in the class, you can be facilitating a discussion. But one of the biggest complaints we've heard from our instructors is that all of the content is being written by AI in the discussion. So why, as an instructor, would I go into a discussion forum and participate in a discussion forum where I'm the only human? or maybe there's 2 humans and 18 bots, or something like that. And so that is a tough one, and we will get into some strategies to help deal with that. The other thing is often listed as providing feedback on student work. Well, if that student work is written by AI, then you're now spending your time grading or giving feedback on student work that was actually just generated by a bot. You can feel like you can tell, you feel like you're reading the same variation of the voice over and over again. That's all just very, very frustrating. And also just not effective teaching because your students aren't doing the things we need them to do. And so that's kind of the overlap of what we're looking here. How do we design a course that still allows that RSI feedback, that discussion, that assignment activity in a way that is just a bit more authentic as well? And then just beyond just the students using AI writing, like Wendy has shared with me a lot, a particular bot problem you have, Wendy, in all of your classes where fake students entirely. You want to cover that a little bit because I'm sure the other colleges are experiencing some of that.
Oh, so yeah, one of the things that we're finding, especially in the state of California, we are having huge issues with bots, and they have gotten so advanced that they're actually submitting assignments now. And that has gotten really frustrating for our faculty that it's not even a live student copying and pasting AI, it's actually a bot student. And so they're having a really hard time differentiating between what is a fake student and what is a real student who's using AI. And so there's been a lot of like kind of, we're trying to drop all of our inactive students because we're concerned about financial aid fraud. And we don't want to find out later on that all these students were fake, that we were spending hours grading and giving feedback to. And then also those students were able to get financial aid. So it's not our job to figure out if someone's a bot or not, but we can really engage with them and figure out if they're a bot or not based on the assignments that we're creating. And I think that's kind of the slant we're taking here. So I really want to emphasize our job is not to figure out if someone's a bot or not, but really to have assignments that are really assessing them at an authentic level to know if they're learning the material. And, a lot of students are using AI, a lot of faculty are using AI. We know that it's out there. We also know that there's like long-term damage that's being done to all of our brains by just depending on AI. So part of the things that we're going to talk about a little more in this webinar is how to incorporate, maybe they are using AI, but let's talk about how we can encourage them to still think about it, even if they're using it.
Agreed. Yeah, and I haven't heard from tons of people the actual financial fraud thing, but it's big in California. I don't know if that's where they're starting, so it may be big in your school and you just don't know yet. So if it does come down the line, these types of things that we're going to talk about help make it resilient. And frankly, as Robert pointed out in the chat, like AI is getting more powerful every day. It's no longer just a copy paste thing. It can actually run your web browser for you. So we'll get into that a little bit as well. So let's talk general strategies, and then we'll dive into some examples. The biggest thing that we'd like you to keep in mind, there's more than the biggest, there's a few big things. Right now, AI does text really well. AI can generate videos, but not with you in them as easily. It can generate images, but they're not, well, it's pretty obvious that they're AI generated images. So if you can shift from doing things in your class that are pure text-based into text plus whatever that is. And we'll get into some examples of those. You're going to be making things more human and naturally more resilient to AI. And so we'll go through some things that Wendy have been doing and some ideas from us about how to do that for some of these different subject areas. The second thing we'd like you to think about is that, much like reading 30 essays is a lot of work, if you can actually get your students to think about and demonstrate the learning of whatever they were trying to do in that essay in a different way, it helps you zoom in on what their problems are. And we'll cover some of those as well. So it actually makes it easier for you to do the RSI side of things, right? Like if a student does an assignment and then shares a video talking about what was hard and tells you what problem they have, you know where to focus. So you can jump in immediately and be like, hey, the student shared with me what it is that they're struggling with. And so I can go address that. And now I'm accomplishing what I needed to accomplish because the student helped steer me in the direction of what they needed help. Obviously, sometimes students don't know, and we'll get to that a little bit as well. How do you do that? And the final piece I'd like you to think about is that there's a decent amount of research that not about AI cheating, but about cheating in general that the more peer connectivity you have in your class, the more motivation you have from the instructor, the more sense of community you have, the lower the desire to cheat, because they're part of something that is not just them individually in a class. And so we'll cover some ways to sort of build that sense of community as well, because it makes it easier for them to interact with each other, but it also is going to dissuade them somewhat from cheating, dissuade them somewhat from AI use. So couple all these things together, you're not going to have an AI-proof class, but it'll be more resilient to the AI use and the bot participation. All right, so let's kick it off with that multimedia thing. So Wendy, you in particular just ended up redoing an assignment to be more project-based learning. So maybe I'll call you out on the spot and be like, tell us about that and what the benefits are.
So I just redid every single one of my assignments to make everything project-based. So I teach an 8-week class that started today, so I don't have the results yet, but I had started making those changes last semester about the project. So I'm going to share an example of one of my projects. So because I teach child development, I do a weekly discussion every week because that's part of my RSI. And the first thing I do is this week, because it's our first week of class, they do a video introduction. And legally, you have to let the students know if you're going to be using a camera or not. So I have the camera icon in our schedule of classes, and I make it very clear in my syllabus as well that I am expecting some video submissions. And then the students give a little intro, a video introduction of who they are. And then I actually give each of them a personal video introduction back. And you know, the amazing thing is I can talk a lot faster than I can type. I find doing the video back to the students, welcoming them to the class, not only the feedback I get from students makes them feel kind of more special, that they got like, wow, the teacher said hi to me personally, not writing it, but giving me my own video. But also just like it's starting that relationship right away, that the student feels invested in the class because I'm already responding to them. And what I love about when I'm using Harmonize is that all I do is click the little camera and it pops right up. I say hello, da 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 da, and hit submit, and I'm done. And my favorite part is that I can make it private or I can make it public. So private would be just a video between me and the student, and public would be where it's more like a Facebook type thing, where any student can see my feedback to the other students. For my introduction, because it's just a welcome, I make it public so that the students see I'm responding to every student, and you can see all of my videos, and my hair is like either crazy, it doesn't matter what it is. But I have 45 students. It takes a long time. And it's really my one thing that I invest in that first week, that I am absolutely going to make sure that every single student will get a video feedback. They're literally a minute long. They are not that long. But what I do is, because I listen to their video to me, I can comment on one thing that they said, so I know that I heard them. Because one of the biggest things that our online students feel is they feel disconnected. They don't necessarily feel that instructors are hearing them or even reading their stuff. So being able to comment on something they specifically said makes a big difference. And yes, I know it is time intensive, but writing it was way more time intensive for me than just like a quick video to the students. And I can type fast. I'm that old. I took typing as a college class. So I'm 85 words like a minute or something. I got my A in that class. So I do want to mention that that's a really crucial thing, is it really personalizes it for the students. And I think that's really important. All of our students are feeling lost, especially right now, I think, in the world the way it is right now. So making them feel connected is one of the first things we can do the first week of class.
Nice. And Jessica, are you doing a similar community building thing in the start of your class?
Yeah, I was just going to say, even, there have been changes to Title V if you're in a California community college that no longer requires student-to-student interaction, but it's still such a good practice to build that community. And I also wanted to mention, in terms of the time thing, what I'm really trying to learn as an instructor and what I'm trying to communicate to students is how can you use AI efficiently and responsibly so you're not rotting your brain, you're not forgetting how to write a sentence, but you're using it to kind of cut down time for the non-important things. So for me as an instructor, I'll use AI to do some kind of, maybe turn some notes into a PowerPoint or something like that, or a presentation. But I'm going to spend that time reviewing the videos and making a video back, because that's what I think is the most high impact use of my time.
Great. All right. Let me jump back over to our outline here. So one thing as we get into this that I meant to call out, and I skipped it, and I probably subconsciously skipped this because it's such a difficult topic, which is there is AI detection stuff out there. And we immediately pivoted into, let's start doing video introduction. Let's do project work where they're delving into video. But you do have a Turnitin integration with AI detection if your school pays for it. Be careful with it. It is not 100% correct. It is another data point that can help you sort of ascertain what you think is going on. The best way I've seen it used is that, let's say you're in an English class and you're doing an essay, and you want to stick with the essay writing because you have to learn to write in an English class, at least in some of the English classes. But you do a reflection on that. Let's say you screen share your essay at the end and you talk about it. Back to sort of what I think what Isa was getting at with how many students are in the class question, how time consuming can that be? Well, if the Turnitin integration points at that it may be AI written and you have a suspicion that it may not be the student's work, maybe that's when you then pivot and watch the screen shared video of them talking about their essay and the writing process and how it went, because then you're not watching every essay that the students are recording. You're watching those that you feel like you really need to. So if you have 50, 60 people in a course, obviously you can't watch 50 to 65-minute videos, or well, maybe you can, but I couldn't watch that many videos. And so can you kind of use that as a time-saving technique as well? And I'm suspicious of the AI Turnitin's integration with AI detection stuff. It scares me because it's a hard battle for them to win. I don't know, Wendy and Jessica, if you use it or if you have similar feelings on it.
We reluctantly use it because the faculty are demanding some kind of tool to, because I mean, no one wants to spend, speaking of time heavy commitment, no one wants to spend like 40 minutes Googling if something's AI written or whatever, trying to like troubleshoot if a student really wrote it. But yeah, we do reluctantly use Turnitin. We're kind of phasing it out, I think, at this point, but our faculty do still like it. And that was a huge sell point about Harmonize, because I think faculty felt even more than like essays and stuff, students were plagiarizing discussions.
I should mention, for those that aren't Harmonize customers, we're going to occasionally dip into so Jessica and Wendy and a lot of the community colleges in California are using Harmonize to handle the discussions and some of the assignments. The things we're going to talk about today aren't required for that. We will demonstrate a few things in it. So the ideas that we're going to get through, if you're not using Harmonize, don't panic. You're not in a Harmonize only webinar here, but we will get into some of those, and I'll end up demonstrating them in Harmonize. But you should be able to accomplish them, maybe perhaps a bit more difficultly, but in your class as well. Okay, so let's dive into, I'm going to pick some of the different areas I have taken notes on about how people are working on these different subject areas and how some of these resilient things apply. Wendy and Jessica, as you see these like coming in from your particular courses, since you're teaching English and child development, and Wendy, I know you I thought you just switched one assignment to projects driven. I didn't know you switched your entire course to it. So maybe chime in with some of these as well. And if you have ideas on these, I'm going to be making these up on the spot for some of these discussions. So we will dive in and start driving this by some of the different subject areas that are out here in the class. So I'm going to share first and foremost the video reflection side of things and doing video essays and video assignments. I can't stress this one enough. This is the easiest thing to do. Is to take let's say you have your students write in an essay, or let me pick a different one since I already did the essay one. Let's say you're actually having your students do math problems. For those that aren't aware, like all of the AI, not all, a couple of the AI folks have actually released browsers that will actually drive Canvas. So they can just literally open up Canvas inside of an AI-driven browser and type on the right-hand side, please complete this problem set for me. Done. It will drive the web browser for them, navigate the web pages, fill out the math questions, submit the essay or submit the quiz, and roll with it. The thing it can't do is actually record you as a human talking about math. And so what we've seen instructors do is they're switching from quizzes where it's like answer these 10 questions, and instead it's like pick a question and solve it, share your work about how you're solving it, and actually record an essay talking about how that goes as well. And screen share, maybe if you worked it out on your computer, screen share and actually save that inside of Harmonize. And so the idea is like they're still doing the math work, and they still have to talk about it. And if they're doing it on homework, let's say they're doing it on a piece of paper, you can actually have them just snap a picture with their phone and this happens to be a mind map, but you can picture that being a math problem. Take a picture of that, and they're submitting it over. So now you can still look at their math problem, see if they got it right. You can have them do 6 math problems, see if they got them right. You can do that in a standard discussion or in a private assignment, but you're actually having them talk about the strategy they used or talk about the problems they struggled with as well, and include some sort of media artifact that they actually did that, be that a picture of their homework written on a piece of paper, or that being a video reflection of them as well, as they're going through things. So in Harmonize, there's some additional features. You can actually draw on these things. We'll open up in an editor for you to draw on. You can actually, if they have done a video, you can actually do timestamp commentary on it. So you can actually grab their video and leave particular timestamp commentary on it. So you can still be doing that RSI as you're watching it. You can be watching their strategy and just be like, pause. I think here you really meant XYZ. Thanks. Play, and then you can watch a little more, pause, and play. So you can do those types of things where you're giving your feedback, where you're responding directly to the video. If you don't have Harmonize, respond in written text or respond. And most of the LMSs have a way to record video in some fashion. It's maybe not as streamlined, but it's there. Record a video back to them, just being like, hey, I loved what you did there. These 3 strategies were great. Remember, you have these 2 other that we talked about in class yesterday, and you may want to actually work with those.
And I want to interject here and let you know and just share that like my music instructors love this, because when a student is taking a video of themselves playing like on instrument because they're doing an online music class, they're able to say, oh, your hand isn't working right here. You want to put your fingers here, and they can annotate right into the video. So I do know that a lot of my music instructors are using it that way. And the other thing is that our speech instructors, same thing. Right here, you said a bunch of times in a row, so they're able to annotate right into the video, where when a student may have submitted, like even our dance instructors are having them submit dance demonstrations. So it works really well being able to annotate right then and there, as opposed to, you know, if you wait until the end and give them the feedback, they don't necessarily know where they did something that needs some help.
Yep. Yeah, so when you think about digging into media, this is one of the things Harmonize does that you can accomplish in your standard LMS. You can give this level of feedback, but we're just trying to make it easier as you're going into it all. So you can do this type of critique and drawing on things. The same thing applies to computer science class. So I saw there's a computer science person out there. Let's say you're actually having them design an object model diagram. Let me go back to that previous post here. Because it did have a mind map, which is kind of almost a diagram of a database. But if you actually have them including artifacts that they built, even if they built them off system, like in this particular one, I built it with a piece of mind mapping software, but I could have built it with any sort of, what was it, UDL, object, I don't know, whatever the language is for defining UML, for defining databases. You could actually have them do that and submit it as a piece of work that then they're working with directly. So instead of having them write about what they would do, which AI could easily do, then they could come through and submit something digitally. Can't stress this enough. Like, the more varied and interesting your assignment is, the more also likely they're to be motivated. So if you have them doing something that's personal reflection on it as well, the less likely is they're going to cheat through these ideas. Let me look at a couple of the other ones here. With psychology, we actually have instructors who are taking I forget exactly what the class is, but it was a psychotherapy class where they were listening and doing marriage counseling, and they gave examples in video for the students to watch and to be able to critique how the conversation went. So it doesn't even have to be that your students are providing the video and showing the demonstration of learning that way. It can be that your asset that you're sharing with your students to begin and kick off the assignment is not text-based. So then they'd have to download that video and drop that video into ChatGPT and try to have it analyze it. And it's frankly not going to be very good at it. We've done a lot of work in that regard to be able to tell what's going on. So to be able to get to the basic stuff into the video as well. I see there was a question came in from Adam about HIPAA compliance. In and of itself, Harmonize is not HIPAA compliant. What we often say is that and my understanding, I'm no HIPAA expert, is that if you are in a biology field, as long as the case studies and the examples that they're doing are not attached to personally identifiable information about that student, you can share that information back and forth. And so we have medical schools that are using it. They're sharing case studies and they're sharing, x-rays and such, but they're not attached to a human identity. And therefore it's okay to use those in an academic setting as well. So So we don't I would say please don't have them share their actual personal medical files into Harmonize because, well, it's rough in a bunch of ways from privacy perspective, but also from HIPAA violation perspective as well. I see David put out the digital arts and coding webinar that he had done as well. Okay, so picking up a couple more of these. We did math, we did English. I'm going to spend a little more time on English because I think you as English professors are often the people that hurt the most out there in terms of what goes on. So let me go open up to an actual assignment here where they did use ChatGPT to actually write an essay, and then they built the outline using ChatGPT and uploaded it as a doc as well. Robin, I'll cover that question in just a second on the video side of things. This is more of a leaning into they are going to use AI and having them share transcripts of what they're doing. And I don't know, Jessica, have you had them actually do writing assignments with AI yet?
Yeah, I'm redesigning a lot of my assignments to lean that way. And we always talk about with our instructors, and Travis Dubry is here, he's one of our colleagues. I like his take of process over product. We're really trying to communicate to students that the process is what matters. So I'm trying to communicate to students, this is the part of the process that it does make sense to use AI for. And this is the part of the process that I need you to produce your own writing because I have these course student learning outcomes I have to match, or our course outline of record says you have to write X number of words. Like there are things that are kind of non-negotiables. We do need to have you do this, but there are ways you can use AI in the process and still kind of contribute your own thoughts.
Do you have them, when you do that, do you have them share the ChatGPT transcript of what they
Yeah.
actually did?
Mm-hmm.
And do you find yourself, back to the how many students do you have in your class, do you find yourself going into those very often, or is it more
It's
of a...
funny. My husband was asking the same thing, like, are you actually clicking on every link and reading all these chats? The answer is no, not every student, every assignment, but I'm trying to get a handful of students and vary them per assignment. And if, when something looks a little iffy, that's one of the ones you're going to click on and check the chat transcript.
Okay. And this is a preview of a link from ChatGPT. Just so you know, most chat clients have the ability to share the transcript of what was discussed. And so you can actually see the students going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth on what they use. And if it was one off, please write the essay for me. And there's the essay, and they dare to share that. That's enlightening, I would say, but hopefully they've actually followed what you've asked them to do in more granular detail. So you're kind of leaning into that AI in the process type of thing.
And then
well.
just similarly, one of the things I do is I give them a question that I actually ask them to ask ChatGPT, and then they copy and paste it into the assignment. And then I ask them to explain what's off about it, like what's missing or what it didn't go into detail, or what did they notice that has a discrepancy from what they've been learning in our class. So I'm actually asking them to analyze ChatGPT to understand that not everything it gives you is accurate.
Yeah, and that, man, if they can find a mistake in ChatGPT, and what I've heard some instructors doing is like, hey, student, pick something that you're an expert in, and then go talk to ChatGPT about it as well before we ever get into this assignment as we go through. So, so you're going to run into a mistake that it doesn't know as much as you know about it if you're an expert in the field. But I like to compare AI to the drunk guy at the cocktail party who sounds really knowledgeable, but is actually not. As well. So if you can get them to realize that, then they're suddenly suspicious and they're less likely to trust it. So then they can use it in a more critical thinking manner, which is really what we're after. There's some conversations about accessibility, which I think is really important. So I've going to step out of the assignment mode here and talk about the accessibility side of these. When you are pushing video, you have to be super focused on making sure that that's inclusive for everyone. To start with, make sure you have auto captioning going on. If you are including videos to your students starting in April, those are going to have what's called an audio description attached to them. An audio description, for those that are not familiar, like an auto caption is it writing whatever I'm saying. An audio description is it writing whatever I'm doing, like a man in a flowery shirt is waving his hands up above his head and looking kind of crazy, and then it reads that to the student so that a visually impaired student can still participate. Harmonize is currently providing auto captions, and starting in the spring, we are going to be using AI to generate audio descriptions as well, so that if we are encouraging more of this video use, we are making sure we're not leaving students behind. But check into whatever your school is doing. The new Title II requirements for public schools probably have your school scrambling a little bit to figure this out. For those that are Harmonize customers, David just created a webinar sign up for me that you can hear what we're doing with the audio descriptions and the AI work. I've shared it with some of you. David, if you want to go ahead and grab that link, even though I haven't published it yet for the Harmonize customers, or frankly, if you're not a Harmonize customer, you can jump in. We're going to be talking about what AI can do for you and sort of the guardrails in place on it and such, because we really don't want to leave students behind. But on the other hand, we are having to use multimedia stuff more to get around the AI writing. And so we are seeing a general increase across the board in all of our product line that they're using more video and assignments, they're using more screen share and assignments, they're using more video and discussions and all of these things. So how do we make sure that that's happening? Okay, I think I lost myself a little bit in my notes. Wendy and Jessica, is there a place you want me to anchor back to? Otherwise, I can scan my notes and figure out where I was supposed to be in the webinar description as well. Oh, AI in the process, peer review, peer-to-peer interaction. Okay, didn't take me long to get back on track. I'm good. So back on the workload side and back on the creating this sense of community, if you can combine the two together, you're going to get your students interacting with each other more, creates more of a sense of community, offloads the work from you to some degree. Like Harmonize has recently introduced a formalized peer review module, but you don't have to do formalized peer review if you don't want. But the idea is, like, let's say you're actually having your students write a business, let's say a profit loss statement for a business class, if that's what you're teaching in business, or an elevator pitch for their business or something, and you have 40 of them come in, you can assign students to review each other's. That is fantastic from a learning process for them to be able to look at other students' work and critique other students' work, as well as impressive from a building sort of that peer connectivity side. And I don't know, Jessica and Wendy, we didn't really talk about this, but in your classes, like which of your projects really kind of focus on the peer side versus you, instructor to student, directly communicating?
I have my students do an observation. So they go to a child care center and observe a child and talk about their development. And that's actually kind of our student learning outcome for the class. And that's the one that I really do as a have them peer to peer, because I actually really like them being able to read each other's observations and see through another lens, like, if how they're talking about it. So it's interesting. Students critique each other so much harder than we critique them.
That's kind of funny, because what's interesting, and like we hear two ways. You hear students are harsh graders, and then you hear students phone in the peer critique. Do you get students who are phoning in the critique of each other's observation, or is it more of just a read it and summarize? Like, how do you handle the balance between those two, Wendy?
It's kind of a combo thing. Some students will go like kind of above and beyond, but those are their students anyway. And then some are kind of just reading it, but not really giving. But they have to fill out the rubric. So when you fill out the rubric, it's all part of peer review, and they have to give comments, and I give grades for that. Like that's part of the grade. So I think that's really important to be aware of. I wish I could say that students are going to do stuff that doesn't require a grade, but it does motivate them when you give points for something.
Yeah, and you can do these anonymous. Like we have our default when you're using our peer review and using rubrics to assess people is that it is anonymous. They get assigned a pseudonym and such. You can do this in some LMSs without Harmonize. It is painful though, so please practice before you go into it. Canvas in particular is kind of rough on the peer review side. But if you can get them to actually critique each other with a rubric and or give each other significant feedback, it's quite helpful. You can then actually have them do a first round of feedback with AI. So Nadine, that was a very, very pertinent question. So they can actually use AI to self-reflect on their own work and figure out how they're doing. We actually have that built into Harmonize, so they can ask for a review of their own work based on the rubric if they want. But they could take that work out, pipe it into AI, and have AI spit out a review as well of what it thinks is strong or what it thinks is weak. However, if you were to do this in a multimedia fashion, to where they are then doing a PowerPoint presentation or a screen recording of something, AI can't consume that and can't assess that. So if you combine the two together, it's not easy for AI to do. So you can have a written part. and you can have a multimedia part. AI can give feedback on the written part, which is good. It's good from a learning perspective. They have to demonstrate the learning with the multimedia part. That's where they're proving that it is their work. And then the students are critiquing each other's work that way. And getting them to actually do, even if it's document annotation, like highlighting bits and pieces of their article. This is one where I, as the student, they opened up the essay that was submitted, they highlighted things and saved them. And then they actually watched the video of what they did and left timestamp commentary on it. Now we know that everybody's human because you had to do an essay and you had to do a screen share and a PowerPoint presentation. The other student had to watch it. They had to leave timestamp commentary on it. AI can't do any of that, at least currently going on. So I guess back to Nadine's question was specifically to Jessica and Wendy, like, do you find many students doing AI, using AI to do the peer review of their fellow students' work? Or do you know?
Probably. But I think what you can also do is have the students reviewing the product do a video as well. So, or an audio clip, something that's less easy to achieve via AI. And I really like the idea of when peer review happens, not only in, like a specifically peer review, platform, but also just do it in a discussion where, students post their introductory paragraphs and they give each other feedback so that everyone benefits from seeing the feedback of each other. And, ideally even have the student who wrote the paragraph make a video about their paragraph, and then they get a video response from their peer. I mean, that's pretty AI proof. And it's also, they're going to get to know each other better that way. They're going to hear each other's voices and see each other move around. Sometimes it's hard even to get students to change their profile picture. So the more you can have them see each other and experience each other that way, I think the better.
A question came in that I actually don't, I'm starting to read a book on, but I actually don't know the answer right now. I don't know if you all do, but it's like Ben's asking, any thoughts about whether mastery grading has an impact on AI usage for cheating? I just started reading Grading for Growth, so I don't have an opinion on this yet, but I don't know if either of the two of you have done mastery grading or any ungrading practices as well.
I did an entire semester of ungrading a couple of years ago, and I have to admit I can't ever do it again. It was amazing. It was wonderful. I was just great. I was ungrading too much. It was with 45 students, and I'm one of the lucky ones because I only teach one class, but there are instructors that are teaching 4 and 5 classes. That's like over 200 students. Because giving so much feedback on every single assignment and having them resubmit every single time, and I would just have progressing. It got yeah, so I try to do like one assignment that's ungraded now. I just can't do the entire semester of every assignment ungraded, because the going back and forth. I don't teach, if I was teaching English, I might have more like that because it's so much about the process of learning. Mine is they kind of are supposed to have some mastery of understanding about child development. So I really have to see that they're, in order to pass them through the class, that there is some understanding about development as well. That's a great question. I think we're constantly learning as teachers. I mean, I think one of our number one things is about flexibility. And, like I just revamped so many of my projects, my assignments to be project based. And one of them was project based last semester. And I found that even like they would I found some students that actually kept ChatGPT on the assignment when they cut and pasted and submitted it. So now it's like I kept that same assignment, but now they have to actually give me audio or video explaining why they created it. Was an anti-bullying ad for when we were talking about adolescents. So I'm constantly tweaking my assignments. I never just move everything over once every semester. I'm constantly going, okay, how can I make this where I know the students are learning the material still and it's them doing the learning?
And then Jessica, have you messed around with that at all? Or
Yeah, I took Wendy and I both took a class about ungrading, and we were trying, and it is really difficult. I feel like a lot of the issue is our system isn't set up for this kind of ungrading. It's not really set up for this much multimedia. When I say that, I mean, it's going to take a push from you to get students to do this stuff. By default, they're going to want to do the path of least resistance, which is maybe write a couple sentences or copy and paste it from ChatGPT. It is a harder, there's a greater barrier to entry when they have to make a video or do a voice clip. But I think the more that they get used to teachers doing this, it becomes more normal. It becomes the expectation. And then it's not such a hard, hill to get them to climb. But I think, and with mastery grading, it's all the more important. If you have just a few really high stakes things, it's all the more important that it's authentic and that a student's not cheating, to really make sure that they're understanding that the main concept. So I think the more you can make it about process, like Wendy said, the more you can make it multimodal, the better you are at actually seeing what they're actually able to produce.
Yeah. And I see Regina just put a comment out. Some students will claim they don't have a webcam or mic. And that is quite possible, although most of them do have a phone. And so there's that as well. But you can also have them do screen recording if they claim that path, because it's really about demonstrating the work and talking about it. And there are a lot of free apps out there that they could, create a free Zoom account, create a free Google Meet account, record what they're doing, and download and share it. And that screen recording is built into Harmonize. So all modern browsers support that so that they can actually do it. So there are ways around it. And yeah, directing them to use free computers at the campus is a great option
And
as well.
like Wendy mentioned, making it really transparent that they're going to need that resource when they get into your class. Put it in the schedule of classes if your college has the ability to do that. And also put it in your syllabus, make it really clear up front. I used to do like a getting to know you survey, and I would put a question in about how do you feel about creating video and audio, and me giving you feedback that way as well. And you kind of get that way, students know up front what they're getting into, and you can catch any issues hopefully at the beginning.
Marcus, there was a question earlier about if there was a way to disable the AI features for the students to use.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That question, there's really not a lot of AI options for the students in Harmonize, and maybe I thought Wendy and Jessica maybe could share a little bit about what AI tools they're suggesting for their students to use when you're directing them to use that.
So I actually, there are so many AI tools out there right now. I even took a training on that, so I know them all. But I tend to just go to ChatGPT. Because it's free, I want to direct my students to use anything free. So I am like, I know you guys are like, wait, you're directing them to ChatGPT. I am directing them to ChatGPT because I really want them to have an ability to responsibly use it. We've had a lot of trade people coming in and meeting with our faculty. And one of the first things they're saying is they expect students to be digitally literate. So when they're applying for jobs, they are going to know how to responsibly use these resources. So I usually just direct them to use the free resource for them because our students are already paying money for things that life is expensive. So I try to offset that. In fact, all of my material in my class, I do all zero textbook. So my students don't even purchase a textbook for my class either.
And yeah, so let's pivot a little bit into how do you get your instructors to do this, or if you're an instructor, how do you do this? Because I know I was spouting out random examples, but they weren't specific enough to your particular area. I do have a resource I'll share. I'm not going to go through it in too much detail, but because we do a whole dedicated webinar to this particular resource, which is kind of what are all the different things that kind of we've covered some of them today, but how do you actually get the students to lean in and do something that's more AI resilient, reflections, group projects, putting the process in, those types of things. This whole blog article has that breakdown, but I also took this blog article and I piped it into and turned it into a chat bot that this link right here will take you to. And you can actually, if you have a free ChatGPT account, you can use it. And there's just a big button that's like, ask me questions about my assessment. And you can put in an existing assessment, and then it will brainstorm with you what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and it will spit out things based on some of these strategies. So that's there for if you want. I'm not going to dive into the use of it a lot, but it's one way to do it. The way that's even better, I found, is what Wendy has done with their professional development class. So Wendy, if you want to share what you're doing there.
So in our district, we have our faculty, in order for them to teach online, they go through two trainings. One is Introduction to Teaching with Campus, and another one is Introduction to Online Teaching and Learning. And both of them are 4 weeks long. And we emphasize in both of those how much our regular and substantive interaction is crucial for developing a relationship with your students, making your class more human. And so in that training, we'll do 2 discussions that are just the regular Canvas discussions. And then the last 2 weeks, we'll do harmonized discussions. So the students get an opportunity to see what tools we offer within our Canvas instance. And these are students, when I say students, they're faculty actually. And so they get comfortable with it because they're actually using it in their training by participating and seeing, and visually it is so much more appealing to them because it's like you have a picture, you can see who's had comments and who hasn't had comments. it really makes, and it's very intuitive to use. It's like it walks you through the first time you set up your assignment, it walks you through like, hey, do you want this? Do you want this? And I love that like I have the ability to like hide student submissions until they post something. You can tell it to go through, turn it in or not. You can tell it to, and I love the milestones. We've always all tried to get our students to like submit something earlier in the week and then like their first submission and then respond to someone else. And now the way you can set it up with post settings, you can have a milestone where it goes right into their syllabus and reminds them to submit by a certain date so that you don't have to worry about having everyone submit on the very last date. So students don't even have anyone to respond to because no one's submitting until Sunday night.
And so you're incorporating the multimedia stuff. You're using Harmonize to do it, but for those that aren't using Harmonize, she's incorporating the multimedia stuff directly into professional development, so they experience it as a student.
And I was going to add, one of the issues we're really facing is faculty using AI in our professional development courses. You know, faculty
wait,
love this.
what?
Oh, it's a serious problem. And that's why the whole burying your head in the sand thing is just not going to work, because people are either using it in secret or they don't know how to use it responsibly. So we're going to have to be more and more multimodal, even in our teacher trainings, because teachers are using AI and not copying to it. So, I mean, to me, it highlights the need for these discussions to be had. We have to be talking about proper use, not proper use, not, experiencing cognitive decline by outsourcing everything to AI, including instructors, So, yeah.
I did not see that coming. That one caught me off guard. So yes, encourage your instructors to actually do the work by using multimedia assignments in your professional development class. And also Wendy mentioned she leans into AI. She tells them and points them at AI tools. From an equity perspective, half your class at least, if not more, is already doing that. And the half that don't need the pointer to be making sure that they are working at the same level as some of those other students. And so it's not a bad thing from an AI literacy perspective to have them do that. Hopefully some of your schools are starting to offer AI literacy for students in classes where they can attend those and you don't have to teach them about those things. But the cat's out of the bag. You're not actually causing more AI use by pointing them in that direction. You're causing ethical AI use, and you're causing the half of the students that were already going to use it. I'm making up that number half, but the students that were going to use it, the other students now will as well. So. Okay, questions. We have about 13 minutes left, and I know a couple of us have a hard stop, so we are going to be quite diligent of cutting it off at that point. But is there any sort of one of the strategies you want us to go back to? Is there anything you want to push on from a workload perspective? Like what kind of questions do you have? And hopefully I answered all of them that were coming in and turned them up throughout the time, but do I have other questions for folks?
While people are putting those in the chat, did have a question for Wendy and Jessica. And this is specific to Harmonize. Are you using any of our social media features like the reactions or at tagging as a way to help speed up the grading process?
I think the students are using, I have it enabled and the students use it and they'll tag me when they have a question. So I'm always like, oh, and it makes it really easy because then I know I've been tagged in something and I know where to go to click on it and just read it right away.
David, you said speed up the the grading process. Did you have an instructor who's doing that? Because that hadn't occurred to me. Like,
I hear a lot of instructors say that as they're going through the speed grader, especially within Canvas, they'll look through the submissions, and they might not respond to every student, but they'll do a reaction so that the student knows at least the instructor is reading their post or reading their comments and is digesting. They might not be responding every time, but they're at least doing that reaction. So that would be some form of engagement.
Regina had a comment on your bot thing where her 1-minute introduction video, the bots often respond with text or don't respond at all. And she uses that to weed out her class. I never thought the fact that it makes sense that they would respond in text because it's the best they can do. But I hadn't really thought about that. That's what they would actually do. Ben asked the question, do you ask students for feedback evaluations? If so, do they use AI for that? Can this be incorporated into the student evaluations too somehow, like something metacognition, something mumble metacognition? Are you seeing like what you think is AI written content in your instructor feedback or yay, nay, no?
We don't really get to see, I mean, we see our own, but we don't get to see like other people's feedback. So it's hard to say what the trend is. I wouldn't be surprised if students are using AI for feedback. it's just, yeah, everything feels like it can be outsourced to AI right now, but
I don't
I
think
don't-
so, though. I think that would
yeah,
be weird, only because I'm the one that sets up the evaluations. So it opens it up in a special thing. I can't imagine them having another window open and actually putting like instructor fee in.
especially
Like,
since comments are optional. I mean, there's,
yeah, because the comment portion is optional.
yeah.
Bruce, you asked a question. I don't have a real algebra with AI thing, but David has a math assignment where they were teaching algebra online, but not specifically AI. The only thing I've done with algebra with AI in modules is to get them to actually have a discussion where they are explaining the concepts they're using and using AI to help them solve and think about those strategies. So they will talk through the strategy with AI, then come back and talk through it after they've learned it from AI and include both. But I haven't actually tested that, so proceed with caution in terms of that was something I was brainstorming with an algebra instructor, and I don't know if it actually works or not. So please be careful, but David did share the math webinar.
And Sandra, you had a great question, and I think that's a really good one because that has come up at times. Students are really politically and ethically opposed to AI, and I kind of agree with them in a lot of ways. There's so much strain on our environment because of the servers and how much they suck from the environment. So I do understand that. If a student came to me personally, like texted me, not texted, but sent me a private message, we would figure something out because I will not, I do understand some of that. However, I still want them to be prepared and I still want them to understand that AI is not always accurate. It's one of the reasons why I have them do the compare and contrast portion of the assignment. So I probably would modify it with something in, like you're saying, with the library, or even I would actually do it for them and paste it and like send it to them and say, here is a piece that's AI. You analyze it for me.
I've seen a lot of instructors offer an alternative assignment always, anytime they're asking students to use AI, just because, whether it's the terms and conditions or the privacy issues or ethical issues, some students just won't feel comfortable. But I think it's interesting in some of the alternative assignments I've seen, they're still having students read about AI and engage with AI. So they're still getting some kind of education about AI, even when they're doing the alternative assignment.
And I'm also wondering if there's not just so the good thing about doing self-reflection with AI is that AI is very personalizing it to you, right? But you can get at the same basic idea using a predefined canned set of prompts. And I'm wondering if you couldn't use AI and your assignment to develop a predefined set of prompts to cause self-reflection that are pertinent, not necessarily to the student work, but at least to the assignment as a whole. So you can then be like, if you don't want to interact with AI with your work and have it cause self-reflection on it here, use this set of questions instead and answer those, maybe. So that way they can pick and choose. Obviously the AI one is going to be more driven by the content of their assignment if you're actually having them give the assignment for self-reflection. Looks like a couple other questions came in. Oh, this was directly to Sandra. There was a message to you, Sandra, then in the chat answering one of your questions as well. All right, 8 minutes left. Any other questions for us? I'll wait for those questions to come in. I will say thank you all for attending. I also will now put on my sales hat and be like, if you're not using Harmonize, happy to set you up with a free semester pilot. You can hit up our website to do that. They're unlimited, they don't charge, so that you can try out some of these things and see if it's beneficial to you. We also have a whole series of webinars coming up along similar topics that are all high-level pedagogy based and/or not necessarily harmonized based. You can go to our website and go to the event section there, and you'll be seeing those coming up. A lot of those are focused around, like ASU is going to do one on how to incorporate AI into the peer review process. Doing that one with OLC, that one's coming up. And there's a couple others as well. So check them out. They're all free. We try very hard to stay out of the harmonized weeds. Sometimes we delve into it because it's the tool we use, and there are a lot of customers in the call. But our goal is to have you learn something that doesn't require harmonized to be able to apply as you go into it all. So.
Marcus, did you want to talk real quick? This was sponsored by the College Buys program, I believe.
Oh, it was. Yes, I should have.
And there are some schools that I saw sign up that are not current users that are in California. So talk about our partnership with College Buys.
Yeah, so College Buys sponsored this webinar because there are 26 community colleges, I think. And so we're centralized under the California Community College College Buys Foundation. And they host the webinar. They help promote this webinar because enough schools have found value in what we're doing that we're trying to share out more of what we're doing. And so that's part of our agreement with them to do so. So we always try to find people to talk about high level things versus just talking about the product. And this was our offering into that. But there is standardized pricing out there for it, and you get a discount as a California school there as well. So we'll help you figure all that out if you want, though. So you can just reach out to us. There's on our website, there's a place to reach out and chat with us if you want to go down that route. I will say thank you. I see a bunch of people's name I recognize that came into the webinar as we're going through. So thank you all for spending the time doing this. For the California community folks, there is a possibility that there's a user group for Harmonize coming up. Lene is talking about organizing it from Foothills de Anza. I don't know if that's off the ground yet, but if it is, you know, pay attention to your email for that, because she's talking about getting together the group of you so you can talk about all the different things you're doing with it and how you're kind of fighting some of these, the good fight, as it were, using some of these tools to achieve things. So awesome. On that note, 5 minutes to spare. Jessica, Wendy, thank you so much for joining. David, thanks for organizing. Appreciate you all as always. I owe you a cocktail. All right.
We will take you up on that.
Next OTC, I will see you there. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good week, everyone.